Hello everybody, my name is Mariano, I am from Argentina, and this will be my very first Touchdesigner tutorial. I posted to the subreddit the stuff you just saw, and a few people asked me to show in a tutorial how it was done, so I figured that that made me happy, and I figured that could be a good way to give back to this community, which is really awesome, and it's always willing to help. So I thought I would give something back. Okay, this patch is fairly simple. It's mostly top stuff, top texture operators, and I thought of doing like the main things of the patch, then showing a bit of the joystick mapping, which is really simple. Like it's nothing too special, and maybe afterwards a few embellishments. So yeah, that will be it. I was considering in making a two-part video, but I don't think it will be necessary. But yeah, I will decide it later as I edit the video. And if everything goes well, I will do a Spanish version, because I think it's important for us to share information too in our own language. Okay, let's get started, and we will get started with a few very humble geometric shapes. But yeah, just before doing that, we will do it's kind of tedious to do that, but it's better to do it than to be sorry later. Our resolution. Okay, we'll do like this, and I'll just have this little guy hovering around, and we will get started with a circle from which I will only want the borders of it. I won't want the fill. First I will map the resolution, and I'll make it just a bit smaller. I really want just to fit it on the screen. Yeah. I will put the fill way down to 0 and make the border just a little bit. And I want the color of this to be white, I think. Okay, so we have that already. And I also want to add a triangle, which, funny enough, you can do with this very same circle top. So I'll just copy and paste it. Right on. I will put in polygon mode. So that's how we get our triangle. And I think I want to rotate it to have it like downwards. Maybe I'll put it up just a bit. I will combine them so that's when I'm going to decide exactly the position. And I also want like a little bar, which we can do with our rectangle. So there we have our resolution, and I want this to be like no, it was like a little bar, really. I want to give it some softness, which I really don't understand much of. Specifies the amount that the background color should be blended into shape. Okay, sure. But yeah, I did this for the patch, so okay. And I will combine all this with a composite. And our mode for this will be add. Right on. So this isn't too special, of course. Well, now first I'm going to add an null so I can see it on the background. I just added a null with Alt N, So that's a fast way to create all of the family you are working on. Okay, I'm going to do this triangle is gonna be like a bit smaller. That can be it, sure. I think the rectangle can be like just a bit wider. Yeah, I think it's nice if it touches like the border of the circle. Sure. We might delete this later, but I'm going to run add RGB key to simply to transform that background into a black one. Okay, so we already have this going on. We have a lot to do yet, but it's starting to take shape. The next thing I'm going to add is a noise stop, the ever-present noise stop. And actually, I'm going to plug this on its second input, not the first one, which is it's like a coordinate map, which I could describe this as like making the noise take the shape of that input. So I'm going to do this. And since we didn't plug anything to the first input, we have to, like, it's not inheriting the resolution of the other operators. So just again, we have to do this. Okay. And I am going to, like, these settings are pretty like I'm going to recreate the ones on the patch, but this was the amplitude was fairly low. Our exponent was just like this, like only two harmonics. Where harmonic spread like pretty low. Our offset pretty low too. Okay, so we can barely see anything. We will probably we'll keep tweaking this noise. And the next thing is really, I think it was like a pretty like an accident, I think. The very next operator will be the edge top, which you may know that it's sort of the text, the edges of shapes. And we're going to do exactly that, but like the happy accident was setting the strength of this like really high, like 500, or I think it was like, yeah, around that. Let me do this rectangle just like a bit shorter. Okay, sure. Okay, so we have like this going on already. I also like this sample step, I put it like in around 20, I think. Like I'd love to understand better what this is, but this determines the distance from which pixel to the sample pixel. Like I can't really understand it enough to explain it, but I am sure of having set it up like, yeah, something like that, 20. And this was one of the parameters that I had mapped on the joystick, and it was fun to trigger it. It went like to around 60, something like that. But like this is pretty fun to do, to animate. Okay. Now, I like it in black and white, but yeah, like a way to implement color, like in a pretty simple way, is to add a lookup, and we will give color to it with a ramp top. Let's set our resolution, just like we did before. Okay, sure. So I think that black and green can look nice for this. So yeah, let's leave black as it is. I am going to bring this down around here. What shade of green? Like, okay, this looks pretty nice. Like this will be useful because we can use it for in a few different ways. We can also set up like a background with the colors of the ramp. That's pretty interesting. And one thing that's pretty nice too is that using this module, like we have a very simple way to using this hue offset to change this palette, the palette of colors. And I think that's really, really useful and fun. And I also map it in one of the buttons of the joystick. So let's leave this like ready to do that. Okay. The next thing we can add is a little, we could add like a little feedback loop, but I think we can do that later once we have some movement going on. What we can do now is to have again a composite, a little null, like let's set up like a background for this. It would be nice. And I'm pulling it right from the HSV adjust. So I am going to blur it like pretty much. It's actually being a ramp, like I don't think it changes really that much, but okay, sure. I am going to use a transform to rotate this ramp, like let's do it like this. I'm going to scale it a bit. So yeah, I'm going to translate this a bit, like I want some of that, yeah. Let's reapply the mirror, or maybe not, maybe it's not really that useful. I'm going to pull up a level and reduce the opacity, like we'll see how much of this we want. This was another thing I had mapped on the joystick. And let's set this comp to over. And sure enough, I will need to put the level of the opacity of this a little lower, and probably this one a bit higher. Okay, so we have now like a background going on, and this is interesting because since I'm pulling this from the HSV adjust, this will change along with the shape. I think it's nice. Okay, and to wrap the background stuff, like we can get rid of this RGB key. I am going to add another comp, like I could maybe do it in this one too, but I will try like a few different, probably like different operations. And I want to pull up a noise. I want to give it its resolution, the same that before. I am going to do like a really small grainy noise for this, just like this. And this will be I will use this to give like just a bit of texture, you know, like Paolea, who is a Touchdesigner development from Chile, my neighbor country, does this a lot, so I learned this from her. This looks good. Let me see what will be our best top. Yeah, like if I lower just a bit the opacity on our other layers, and I can make this noise come through just a bit. Like I don't know, we don't need too much. Okay, so before getting to the other stuff, I am going to add a noise. Like I am going to start thinking on on the things that will be later useful and fun to animate. I'm going to add another noise. Whoa, looks nice. I want this to have like a really low period. Yeah, just like that. And we will keep the amplitude way down. And what I want for this is to set it up like this. Yeah, that's right. So we don't have all that all that noise in the background. Like this is a different operation for how the noise combines with its symbol, right? So this will look really nice once we start to play with it. Like I was playing around with this. I had it on one of the triggers of the joystick, and it was really fun. So just before we get into mapping the joystick, let me add a little feedback loop. Like we want to do this just before the composite of the background and all the stuff. So I will add a new comp here, and I will add a feedback top, which right off the bat, I always know that I want my feedback with other operators to transform it, like to make it a bit softer, we could say. So I'm going to hold control, and I'm going to select a feedback, a transform, a blur. I always liked that too, and a level, because we need to control the done. And I am going to, like, before playing it in, I'm going to turn the opacity way down. I am going to play it in, and I'm going to add our comp to the feedback, and of course it's gone. It always is. I am going to choose the add operation, and yeah, that's what I like. And this is really fun to have mapped in one of the buttons of the joystick, and especially as the thing starts to move, right? So this is more or less the basics of the patch. Like we already have a few parameters that we can tweak around with the joystick, so we can jump right into that. Okay, so we will get ready to map our joystick. I just noticed that in the previous part of the video, like there's a little video glitch whenever I drag. Like I had the little constant window hovering, but it wasn't visible, and then it starts to blink when I drag it. So that will not look nice. So I'm sorry for that. But let's get to this. We have a very useful joystick chop that we will add around here. Let me tweak around. Okay, right. So it was like I didn't quite like the way it was detecting the triggers on the joystick. So I just like tried a few configurations here, and it will work. This is a pretty common USB joystick. It's a Red Dragon. I think the model is Saturn or something like that. But yeah, it's a really common, like Xbox-like joystick, let's say. And yeah, like I think that the what's interesting about this really, it's to choose which parameters we want to map to each controller, right? So this, if you play games, this may be like more intuitive, because we have like these buttons that all of them are toggles, like they output 1 when they are pressed, and they go back to 0 once you let them go. Then we have these ones that, as you can see, They go from -1 to 1 in the x-axis, and then the same on the y-axis. We have two of them, so that's really useful. And we also have these triggers, which, as you can see, it's like in MIDI speech, let's say. It's like the velocity of this, like, well, no, not the velocity actually, but like it's not a trigger that goes from 0 to 1, but it has like all these intermediate stages from 0 to 1. So these are like useful for a few specific things. So right off the bat, let's get to the obvious ones. Like I want to move the triangle and the little bar, right? So I'm going to, like, this will get messy soon because we will have a lot of chops. Like we can clean that up later if we want. Anyway, I'm not going to show all the mappings I did on my joystick because it could take time and it's like really a bit repetitive. Like once you've set up and like decided a few things, like you shouldn't need to, like it's pretty much the same. So on our select, I will grab this -1 to 1 from the x-axis, like from side to side, on my left stick. So I am going to, just like that, x-axis. Okay, and I'm going to, of course, I will need a math. And let's add a null just to have it clean. I am going to map this to the rotation of our little triangle. So I am going to make this operator active and I'm going to hover around and yeah. Okay, the thing with this, of course, is that we are moving like too little. So I am going to use this math to change the range, right? So it turns out that the joystick outputs -1 to 1. So in this from range, I'm going to put down exactly that. And let me see what's the ideal for this. Let me just, yeah, it could be that. At the same time, it sort of moved a bit the center of it. So yeah, let's keep it to 0. And you can see that it moves like too quick, right? I can't really, like, this is too fast for me. So I am going to use a lag chop just here in between the math and our null, of course. And right off the bat, with this default setting of 0.2, we have like a, yeah, I really think this is a lot better. I could play around to make it spin like more, maybe. I don't know if I will like this. This is not the kind of motion I like for this. I think I could leave it like this. And okay, so far so good. I will copy this and do the same for our rectangle, our little bar. And I will do that with my right stick, right? So I think this is pretty much just changing this. No, it's not. Let me see. Xrot. Okay, whatever. Your name is Xrot. Welcome to our patch. Okay, so right on. I am going to just the same map the rotation of this rectangle, which is our little bar, with this. Okay, right on. So now we have like a little control of this, and this is already starting to get fun. Another thing like that I discovered like in accident is that once we have set up like this noise and the feedback and all, this softness parameter on the circle gets really, really interesting. Like, I'm not sure. Well, we just saw a bit ago, specifies the amount of the background color should blend the shape. Okay, so it turns out that it's really fun, and I want this to be mapped on my left trigger, or at least that's how I did it. His name is Slider1. Okay, Slider1. And I am going to add a null, and I'm not quite sure of how to map the values. Let's just see if 0 to 1 is maybe too much. No, it's actually good, but just like before, I want my lag, and I want it now. And let's see. So I think I want my lag to be like lower, so less slow when the value goes up, which is this very first field, and I just want it like to be snappier, you know? Or even maybe I don't want lag at all for this. Okay, sure. So what else? What else? I was using. Okay, let's set a few of the like these parameters from down the line, and let me like one that it will always be fun is the feedback. Or no, I think that maybe we could set up the color change. So I set up this one on my triangle button, or Y button for the Xbox lads. Okay, so I am using my select, and the button is called before, and yeah, I'm going to set up a null, of course. So what I want for this is actually like if it won't be useful for me to have this button go from 0 to 1, because the value we want to move goes like from 0 to 360 and minus 60. But I also don't want it to go back to 0. I want to like jump between values. So what I need for this is actually a count that, this simply put, will go up every time I press this button. Like, instead of outputting this 0 to 1, will output like how many times it went to 1. And I needed to set this limit. I'm not sure just yet but how much, but let me do this. So if I map it, let me map it right away. So I am pressing my triangle, and this is really slowly changing the hue offset, but I think I'm going to destroy my joystick or my thumb before I get any meaningful changes. So what I want to do, or at least that was the way I had set it up, was to use again the math. Okay, this was so silly. I am so used to using the range of the math that I wasn't noticed that actually what I need to do is to multiply this by 20. So notice how each time I press my triangle button, this value will go up 20. So the jumps on this hue offset will be larger. The problem is that this got stuck at 360. Of course, it's limit, and now I am way up, so it's really not changing anything. So what I actually want is for this to go up and down, you know? And for this, we will use a limit chop. And I think this one is supposed to go into loop. Let's just check that. Okay, so now I am going to be pressing triangle over and over again, and it's going to jump. Okay, okay, I understand. It's jumping from one side to the other, so I think I want the zigzag mode for the limit. Tuk, 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 tuk. Let's see what happens. Okay, exactly. That's what I want. But maybe what I want is to not have these values jump like so fast. So once again, like really for my setup, there's folks out there that will do like better and more complex chop stuff. But really, I just felt that with really common chops, there was like a lot of things to do and fun to be had. Okay, so I am now using my lag, and I'm not sure what's the exact setup for this. Okay, this looks good enough, sure. Okay, another thing I am going to map is my feedback. Like, this is starting to get messy, I know. Later we could change this, like tidy them up. But for now I'm going to map my feedback. So I wanna select, and I want it on my B1. So what I'm going to do to make this just a bit less messy is setting this up. And I want to grab this B1, who said, yeah, sure, it wasn't necessary to create this one. Okay, so I'm going to map this one to the level to the opacity of our feedback. And let me see what I need to do for this. Okay, I want this to toggle really, because for the moment it goes to 1 as I keep pressed the button, but I think it's more useful to have it like turn on and then turn off as I press. Okay, I'm going to add my count chop, and I want this to limit at 1, right? Right, so we are jumping from 0 to 1 for the opacity of the feedback, and I want two things actually, as always, a lag, and I also want a math chop, because I don't want to go up to 1, but rather maybe 0.9. So it's just a bit less extreme. Okay, it's starting to get funny. Like, this is like the basics of the patch, and there's like a lot of stuff to be done, but like with these tools, you don't need much else, I think. One that it's fun to map is, yeah, this one, the amplitude of this noise we added later. So for that I am going to, maybe I'm going to map it on the button that will be like R1, I think, or R button in Xbox speech. And this is called B6. Okay, B6, hello, welcome to our patch. I am going to, right off the bat, add a null and make it active, but just before, I want to use some math because I want like low values really. Like maybe like this. And I know that I want lag, or maybe not. Let's just try. Let me go to this noise and map our amplitude, no, not this noise, this one. Okay. Okay, sure. Yeah, I'm going to want a lag. Yeah, that's nice. I want it like a bit slower, I think. And I want it to go like even slower, maybe. Okay, so this is fairly simple. Like so far we have the feedback, we have the color, we have like this noise with 0 period that adds some fun. We have the rotation of these parameters and the softness of the circle, which combines nicely with the feedback. We can circle around these colors. There's a few more things that are interesting. Like I am recreating my patch like from memory, but also I'm stopping and checking it out as we go. Like I'm not going to do this right now, but I'm going to mention it that I had set up like each one of these shapes. I had set up like for each one of these a switch, and I had like some other shape. For example, let's set up like a rectangle, like maybe like that. Border width, sure. Let's make and I want it to be white, I think. And like I can switch this I will do the same for our circle. Like I'm trying to show it like pretty without getting too much into it. And like I had like a few different shapes, you know, for like suddenly we can have yeah, I want this to be up here, and maybe I without the circle. Also I need my resolution, of course, for both of them. Okay, so I had for each of these shapes, you know, the first one we did, like I had set up a few alternatives for this. Like I could change from our triangle to another rectangle, set up just like this, and I could change it up with one of the buttons, you know, like the index of the switch, and it was really fun. Like, okay, sure, I could do it right now, but and you know, we could like rotate these ones too. So yeah, there's a few nice things that can be done with this. I think this is pretty much the important stuff for this. Like you could set up these switches with different shapes. You could set up like, for example, a limit. It's nice for this, I think. This has to be before the lookup. Let's quantize the position. I think it is right. So you can set up a button to it's like really intense effect. And of course you can map the limit to a button in the joystick, but yeah, I think this is more or less all the stuff that I used with, and this is what I have to show for this, like how to map the useful chops to map the joystick, the little, I think that the soul of this patch pretty much is the edge with the strength like super high. Let's see what happens if I go up to like, whoa, this is nice. I can change my colors, I can add some feedback, I can go to the previous shapes too. So yeah, like there's a few more things that could be done, sure, but I think the important parts of this patch are these ones. Like you could play around with some other effects, maybe a displays. I didn't do displays for this one, but it could be nice. But yeah, I think that the interesting stuff I have to show was already covered, so I hope you'll enjoy. And this was like my way to give back to the community, to the Touchdesigner community, which is always like so helpful and so willing to help and to check out projects. So this was my way to give back. So goodbye. I am Mariano, and ciao ciao.